Why can't you be successful like your brother? Mom said, loud enough for everyone to hear. We were at Gary's promotion party, and I already felt sick to my stomach knowing what was coming. Mom announced to her friends, Gary just got promoted to senior analyst. Meanwhile, his little brother still lives at home playing with computers. Her friend shook her head with this fake sadness that made me want to disappear. She said, such a shame when one child thrives and the other doesn't. My phone buzzed with an urgent text from my assistant about Gary's company offering $90,000 for an emergency fix. I stood up and said, work emergency. Mom laughed bitterly and said, what work? You don't even have a real job. I said, $90,000 worth, and walked out. My assistant's text was frantic because Gary's company had 6 hours before employees missed their paychecks. This was the 4th time this year they'd called my company, but Gary had no clue it was me. I only worked their systems at night when Gary was home sleeping, and during the day, I sent my team instead. The invoices just showed a contractor number because I'd planned it that way. Last week, Mom had actually told our extended family not to lend me money because I was a lost cause. She'd posted on social media about being proud of Gary while asking for prayers that I'd find direction. The worst part was that Gary had liked the post and commented that maybe I should learn a trade since college was clearly wasted on me. His co-workers had seen it and laughed about it. Now those same people were begging my company to rescue them. I arrived at midnight with only 5 hours to fix everything before the company collapsed. Gary's boss was there pacing around with tears in his eyes, but Gary had gone home hours earlier claiming the stress was giving him migraines, which was typical. His boss said, thank God you're here. If you can't fix this, we're finished. The system was completely destroyed because someone had tried to update during payroll processing and corrupted everything. My heart was racing knowing what was at stake. First hour went by and I found the corruption, but it was worse than I thought. Second hour, I kept trying data recovery, but it kept failing and my hands started shaking. Third hour, I finally got some traction, but time was running out fast. At 4 a.m., executives started arriving in panic mode, including Gary, who looked annoyed at being called in. Gary demanded, who called this contractor? His boss said, same one who always fixes our disasters. Gary watched from across the room and muttered to his coworker that at least contractors were good for something, which made my blood boil. By 5:45 a.m., with 15 minutes before deadline, I got everything running perfectly. Gary's boss called a meeting right at 6 a.m. as payroll went through successfully. He announced, this contractor just saved the entire company. He pulled up the invoice history on the big screen showing $200,000 in repairs this year alone. Gary's jaw dropped and he said, that's more than my salary, looking like he might throw up. His boss nodded and said it was worth every penny and that he was offering my company a permanent contract for $2 million over 5 years. Gary straightened up trying to look important and his boss said, in fact, Gary, you should thank them personally since your entire department would have been eliminated if this hadn't been fixed. Gary nodded eagerly and said, absolutely. Whoever they are deserves our gratitude. His boss smiled and said, perfect, let me introduce them. I stood up from the back corner where I'd been sitting. Gary squinted at me looking confused, then his face went completely white. I said calmly, I own the company that's been fixing your systems. The room went dead silent. Someone whispered to Gary, that's your brother. His boss looked between us, completely stunned. He asked, you didn't know your brother has been keeping your department alive? Gary stammered, but you live with Mom. You're unemployed. His boss pulled up my client list showing major banks and hospitals. He said slowly, your brother's company has 12 major clients. A coworker pulled out their phone and found Mom's post about me being a lost cause. They muttered, this is awkward. Gary couldn't speak anymore. Gary's boss begged me to sign while Gary stood frozen. Mom called his phone on speaker and asked, how's my successful son? Gary said quietly, Mom, my little brother owns the company that keeps my job existing. He makes 4 times my salary. Silence. Then she hung up on him.